Okay, so we are back. Some crazy stuff has happened. We had 350 subscribers about a week and a half ago. Crazy Cedric video. We'll keep posting some more shorts of that. That came out. Now we're at 3,000 subscribers, 3K. That's huge. Really want to thank you guys for all the support and just, keep hitting that like and subscribe button. That's huge for us. But we want to talk about the Celtics, Sixers, Game 7 and the series as a whole. I got Cam, my co-host, with me. Cam, you said it yourself. Game 7 is when you see who the best player on the court is. Give me some instant reactions to Celtics and Tatum just having a legacy game and dethroning the 76ers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this was a legacy game for Jason Tatum. Struggled all through series, bad shooting games. I mean, they lost games they shouldn't. I mean, I don't even think they should have gone to 7 games to begin with. But at the end of the day, who's the best player on the floor? That's Jason Tatum. He showed up when it matters, when all the chips are on the line. When you shove all in on a game 7, you have to come through. And he did 51 points. I mean, what else can you say about the guy?
Yeah, what we're seeing, or at least what I noticed in the series, is that the Sixers had a lot of success when the ball was moving, when people are attacking and slashing into the paint area and driving kicks were going. PJ Tucker hit some big corner threes at the start of Game 7, but it kind of seemed like Embiid's style of play actually played into the Celtics' hands. Embiid getting post-ups against Al Horford 17 feet from the basket, jab, jab, he gets doubled, he kicks it. That's not efficient offense or a step back three. We saw in Game 7 Al Horford had his way with Embiid, and that's not only because Embiid didn't play that well, but because the Celtics adjustments were really good. Cam, what can you talk to me about the defensive side of the ball we saw from the Celtics before we hit, JT and his 51?
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics really made great adjustments, especially switching to a bigger man lineup, pulling in Al Horford and Robert Williams at the same time. But as far as the Sixers offense goes, I think it looks better when the offense is running through Harden and not through Embiid. I mean, you get more shooters open. Guys like Maxey and Tobias Harris get better shots as well, and we see them getting more involved in the offense. Versus when you run it through Embiid, it's kind of like Maxey and Harris are kind of just chilling on the wings or in the corner, kind of just letting Embiid post up and go to work. It doesn't look as fluid, and I mean, I really think that's what held them back from winning this series. I think that's a big adjustment and look at the games they did win. James Harden had 42 and 45 and some of those big wins, especially that game in overtime. I mean, the offense just looks better when it's moving through James Harden and not really Embiid. And I think
Yeah, and
that's
what
I also think that's going to be what the problem and the downfall is for the Denver Nuggets. And I made this point earlier. I don't think you can win a championship anymore when your best player is a center. So I mean, that's something you got to look at if you're a Sixers fan.
Yeah, the Lakers and the Celtics are going to have the same, I guess, mindset, which is let's make defense turn into our offense. The second we get that board, let's push it because Embiid and Jokic can't make it down the court that fast. And that's what we saw. We saw Embiid have a basket. Next thing you know, it's a big outlet pass. Al Horford's hitting a corner three, 3 seconds after Embiid just hits a two-pointer. They're making him run. They're making him tired. And then at the end of the game, to see Embiid being constantly put in a pick and roll at the top of the key on the perimeter against Jason Tatum and getting scorched over and over again just kind of reminds me how everything comes full circle. Where the one gripe against Jokic was his defensive or his inabilities on defense, and we're seeing the MVP kind of getting taken out to the back of the shed in that way too. But Cam, talk to me about Jason Tatum now. Now we talked about how if he didn't have a bad game, or if he did have a bad game, it wouldn't be great, but he had a great game. Talk to me about JT and the Celtics' future with a player like him at the top of the mantle.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious and clear to most basketball fans that Jason Tatum will win an MVP award in the next 2 to 3 years. I think that's a pretty safe bet. When Jason Tatum is at his best, he's the best player in basketball. The problem is maintaining that level of production for him. When he's not consistent enough as some of those other guys we've seen, you know what you're going to get from LeBron, you know what you're going to get from Giannis and Curry and some of those upper echelon kind of guys. Even when they have bad games, it's not the same quality of bad games we're seeing from Jason Tatum. And if he can continue to maintain that level of excellence, I think that's really how he takes the next step. I mean, we saw yesterday when he's on, he's the best player in basketball. The problem is doing that game after game, series after series, playoff year after playoff year.
Yeah, absolutely. And like people would say, JB is more consistent. JB game to game will give you 24, 25, 26 a night, and Tatum can be on or off, but when he's on, he is a top 5 player in the NBA when he's on. And that's the reason why the Celtics can't trade a player like Jason Tatum ever and want to try and keep a JB, because when Tatum doesn't have it, JB can bring it. And then what's good about JB too is JB, once he realized he's on a heater. He kind of went to the corner. He said, I'm going to let you work. And that's what makes that duo so great, that tandem so great, where it's two elite wings that can lock you down and score on you, but they also know when to defer. Now, Cam, the Celtics move on. What does this mean for the Sixers? Harden, another collapse. Doc Rivers, another 3-2 lead collapse. Embiid, only MVP in history to not have a conference finals appearance. What does this mean for the 76ers franchise?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Doc Rivers' time in Philadelphia has come to an end. I mean, 5 straight Game 7 losses, multiple blown leads in playoff series. I think it's time for Doc Rivers to move on. I expect them to be fired. I mean, we've seen some big coaches be let go after their playoff runs, including the Bucks and Monty Williams a few days ago as well. But I mean, you can't put it all on Doc Rivers. I mean, Harden is one of the most irritating players in basketball as well. We know what he's exceptional in the regular season. When he was on the Rockets, we know what he was doing. I mean, 50-point triple doubles. I mean, average 51 for weeks on end. But in the playoffs, he seems to just disappear. When the lights are brightest, he's not that guy. I mean, 9 points in Game 7, you can't have that. But I mean, Embiid's also no better. You really can't let him go either. His career averages in Game 7, he's only giving you 21 and a half points per game on 38% shooting. MVP level stats, I don't think so. I mean, you can't expect that kind of production in a playoff game and be expected to win. And then to have the gall after the game to tell the reporters that me and James can't win by ourselves. Are you kidding me? You guys combined for like 24 points. I mean, you can't put that on Maxey, and you can't put that on Tobias Harris either.
Yeah, Tobias Harris and Maxey actually had the two best games in Game 7. But going off of Harden a little bit before we wrap up, Harden's game, I think, why he does so well in the regular season is because his game is tailored for the regular season, where you can go and draw fouls and get 10 shots from the free throw line a night. In the playoffs, the refs swallow that whistle. And those calls that you try to get, the calls where you feel contact on your arm and you raise up immediately and flail your arms, and he's not even trying to shoot or make the shot. Those types of calls don't come to you in the playoffs. And there's numerous occasions when you're looking over at Harden, and I hate to be mean like this, but he's looking over like, Daddy, can you help me? Looking at the refs, saying, I need help. These guys, what I'm doing, what I'm used to doing isn't being called. We see it. It's an annual thing with Harden. You're not getting those calls. How can you adjust? How can you adapt your game? And he hasn't. So interested to see what happens there. Cam, any last words before we wrap this up?
Man, I think you hit everything. I mean, I really like that point you made, especially about Jaylen Brown on the defensive ends picking up the slack when Jason Tatum's not there. Is going to be crucial, especially against this Miami Heat series they got up next. I think the Celtics are in for a bigger fight than we think. I mean, we talked about this a little earlier before we started recording. I know you think it's going to be a shorter series, but I think this one's going to go the distance as well. And I think a lot of that comes down to Spoelstra's experience over the Celtics in this game. I mean, he's won many playoff series. I mean, if anybody knows how to make adjustments, it's that guy. We'll see.
Yeah, I made a TikTok about this. Follow us on TikTok also. Joe Mazzulla, he has to earn his stripes as a young head coach in this league. You can't just be a young head coach and be perfect all the time. Young Eric Spoelstra, 2012 on the Miami Heat. He was a scapegoat for a lot of those losses. Joe Mazzulla, get your stripes, get those lumps on your back as a head coach. It'll only pay off dividends in the future. Now, Cam and I will have a Nuggets Lakers preview tomorrow before the game. But like and subscribe to this video. That's how the algorithm kind of, puts us out there and lets more people see us. But we really appreciate it. We just hit 3,000. Let's keep on going. Let's hit 4,000. Until then, see you later. Peace. It's a 16 buff in the dark.